Hello and welcome to the Wolverton workshop. This video will be a brief look at the first piece of custom rolling stock I have made for my N-gauge layout, Wolverton North.
Please stand back from the platform edge.
My layout will replicate a section of the preserved Severn Valley Railway, so the item of rolling stock I've chosen to model first is numbered E314153 and it is a War Department 50-ton Warwell wagon. The Warwells were introduced by the Ministry of Defence in 1942 and were built to transport military vehicles required in the latter part of World War II. The wagons were primarily designed to carry the American Sherman tanks to the South ports ahead of D-Day. A total of 85 of these wagons were built, and number 153 was built in 1944 by the Gloucester Railway Carriage and Wagon Company. Following the war, the wagon was allocated to the LNER before being sold to the Paint and Shaft Steel Works in Wednesbury. In November 1980, the wagon was purchased by Severn Valley Railway and was used as storage for boilers until it was partly restored in 1994. It's still in use today for boiler storage and the occasional boiler test. It's this picture in particular that I'm looking to replicate. This is the wagon in use during the initial fire tests of a newly refurbished boiler. There were a few reasons I decided not to go with one of the already available Warwell kits, but the main one is simply because the wagon I'm looking to replicate has had its wooden deck removed, and it would be hard to modify an existing kit to reflect this. I decided to design the complete wagon myself and print it off on my resin 3D printer. The bogies are designed to use the 3-hold wagon wheels available from Graham Farish. They will be attached to the wagon body using 3D printed pegs. This gives the bogies the freedom to spin, but also allows a little bit of play to compensate for any less than perfect track joints. For couplings, I'll be using the Dapol NEM pockets, and I wanted to find a way to fit these to the bogies with as little extra bulk as I could get away with. After a few iterations, I realised instead of creating a housing that goes around the coupling, I could use the recess in the back of the pockets to fit over a square peg on the bogies. It took a few attempts, but I eventually managed to get this to be a snap fit. With the bogies designed and tested, I set about drawing up the rest of the wagon. Once I had got the main frame all sorted, I added smaller details which include the brake handle and rivets. I also added pipework and cylinders to the underframe and a bolster support on the top of the wagon. The last thing to do was to draw up a suitable boiler to place on the wagon. I used drawings from a GWR Hall class to create the boiler. With that, the design was complete and I was able to get all the parts printed out and painted up. I don't have any photos or videos of the painting process, but the paint job is relatively simple. The whole wagon was given a coat of dark red before the brake handles were picked out in white. I added some extra pipework and a water hose to the boiler using brass rod and a thin wire. It was then given its base colours. Several layers of weathering were applied to both the wagon and the boiler. Once fully painted, I added suitable detail to the deck of the wagon to give it that well-used look. These include lengths of wood, an I-beam and some pallets. I then installed the bogies with their wheels and couplings fitted, and the wagon was complete. Here are some shots of the completed wagon on my club's layout. Overall, I'm happy with the finished wagon, and I think I've gotten as close as I can to the reference photo I was looking to replicate. I also couldn't resist making another few variants of the Warwell, including a fully bolstered version. For my next rolling stock project, I plan to replicate this GWR chaired sleeper wagon, also resident on the Severn Valley Railway. And that's it for this video, so until next time, thanks for watching.